welcome to this week's edition of Cityline. Hi, I'm Jackie Hall.
And I'm B.T. Bentley. Many fathers are faithfully making child support payments. However, because of vengeful mothers, they're repeatedly being denied visitation privileges.
Today on Cityline, you'll meet a father who is currently struggling to gain legal custody of his child.
Charges of racism in the Baltimore County School System. Today, we get the parents' perspective. I'm T. Montier.
Hi, I'm Harold Anthony. You know, it's been proven that when artists get together for a cause, great strides are made. We remember the successes of We Are the World, Farm Aid, and Sun City. Well, once again, artists are pooling their talents to help prevent substance abuse. Stay tuned for Stop the Madness today on the entertainment page.
Join us as George Williams shares the story of his battle to have equal access to his child.
Also, attorney Hans Phillips gives advice to fathers who are attempting to gain custody of their children.
Fathers United for Equal Rights. Up next on Cityline.
Thank you for joining us for today's edition of Cityline. You know, often we hear the stories from the mother's perspective when they talk about, the fathers aren't doing this when they're separated or divorced or whatever. The fathers aren't doing this. Well, today what we've decided to do is to flip this, the coin and get the other side of the story, and it's about custody from the father's point of view.
It's about time.
Exactly, it is. Indeed it is. George Williams is our guest. He is a father fighting now to have custody of his child. Welcome to Cityline. George, give us a kind of a feeling for what you've gone through. How long has the battle been for you?
Well, it's been about 3 years, and it originated in April of 1983. When I lived with my spouse for about 5 years, and I decided that I no longer could stay with her. We had a 2-year-old child, and we were constantly fighting in front of the child.
Is this a physical fight or verbal?
Well, sometimes it was physical, verbal at other times, but mostly physical, I would say. Initiated primarily by her. So I decided to leave, and I left in April of 1983, as I said. And when I left, I wanted to have visitation rights. So I went downtown to the court building to find out how could I gain visitation. What happened when I got there was that they said that I wasn't legally the father of this child.
And so what process followed that?
The process would take that I would have to bring this child into court with the mother to prove that I was the legal father, since we were not married.
Mm-hmm.
Did you actually do that? Did you prove it?
Well, I couldn't do it right away, but in July of the same year, the mother took the child to North Carolina, to her hometown. And what happened, that's the time that I had gone downtown to inquire about this. Mm-hmm. So what happened, the mother stayed in North Carolina for 2 weeks. She came back, but she left the child. So now you don't have a child for courts, right? Mm-hmm. So what I did after then was asked her to go to get the child, offered her plane fare, train fare, cab fare, whatever.
Whatever kind of fare.
Right, she would not go. So day before Labor Day, I took a bus to Wilmington, North Carolina to pick up the child. Her sister delivered her to me, and we came back the same day. When I arrived in town, the mother picked me up at the bus station. I went to her home. I gave her $40. She wrote out a little receipt, and she took me home. I went back to work, and in about 3 days, she had brought the child over to my house, saying that she no longer could keep the child. I kept the child 5 weeks, and I let her see the child twice. The second time she saw the child, she stole the child out of the house.
So that's been quite a battle back and forth. What did the courts finally decide in reference to you and custody of your daughter?
Well, what they did was give the mother temporary custody. We had a hearing in front of Judge Angeletti, and we both were there. She had her babysitter there, and the babysitter, of course, was on her side, and she said that the things that would help her, and basically she was a babysitter that was keeping the child nightly, 5 days a week. And so my contention was that if she's going to keep the child, then why couldn't I keep the child? If you don't want the child, let me have the child.
Where does your case stand at this moment?
Right now we have a hearing that's coming up May the 28th of next month.
And what is this going to decide in
Well,
your case?
I hope it decides one way or the other who has custody, permanent custody, or whether we have joint custody, and I hope it straightens out some things for my daughter.
Now, at this point, you have what? You have limited visitation rights?
I have limited visitation rights. Judge Angeletti gave me visitation rights every other weekend. They start on Saturday at 10 o'clock, they end on Sunday at 6 o'clock.
So that's 26 weeks out of a year.
26 days per year. However, even though he gave me the 26 days, I might see the baby about half that time, because most of the time is spent with her ducking me within that time limit. When I go to see the child at 6 o'clock that Sunday, when I finally get in touch with her, she's returned, and now she summons the police.
Okay, there's a lot more, obviously, to your story, and we're going to get into more of the details of that. But at the moment, we're going to take a break, continue with George Williams' story, and be joined by a lawyer who will give us some legal advice.
We're back talking to George Williams about his struggle to obtain custody and very basic access to his child. George, we were talking before about the legal steps that you've gone through. I imagine that this has not been a very cheap thing to pursue. What kind of costs are we talking about, both in time and money, in pursuing this effort?
Well, we're talking about, I've spent between $5,000 and $6,000. That's what I've given lawyers. However, I've lost about $20,000 off my gross pay within the 3-year period. The first year I lost $6,000. The second year I lost $14 additional, mainly because the days that I attempt to acquire the child, she's not there, and I have work that extends from week to week. If you miss the initial start, you can't regain that work.
Okay, now let me ask you, it's a tug of war between you and the mother of the child. What's the effect on the child herself?
Well, the child has taken it pretty well. She's a child that has grown to understand that we do have fights. She loves me very much. It's more like a battle with her mother why she loves me so much, and so that sometimes she just keeps the child away from me to antagonize the child and myself.
Let me ask you a question. Why do you think you would be a better parent than the mother?
Well, basically, I thought I would be a better parent because of the mother, because she didn't do anything that I saw my mother do or any other parents do that I've seen with children. She left the child by herself. The child did not eat right. And one of the main things is that I'm blind in one eye, and I wanted to have this child examined. I wanted to take her to the dentist. None of these things have been done.
Now that's your side of the story in terms of the quality of parenting and so forth. What did she say about you when you did go to court, when you got the limited visitation rights? What kinds of things did the judge hear from her, if we can do that kind of a twice removed reporting, that enabled her to gain access and custody of the child?
Well, she denied the fact that I kept the child when the child was very small, which I did. I kept the child from a very young age, and because of the type of work that I do. And she also denied that I contribute money to the child. That was not right. So the judge, I mean, he saw it in her favor, and he gave her the child. Plus, she had a witness. I didn't have anyone with me.
Obviously, we're getting into some very sticky legal issues, and joining us at this time is Hans Phillips, who's an attorney who represents the Fathers United for Equal Rights. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
As I said, these are very sticky legal questions. What kind of thing is happening in terms of, has there been a change in the way fathers are perceived by the courts?
There is a slow change, and the change is to change society as a whole. We've had in the past a role model. The wife stayed home, she took care of the kids. The husband is the macho, he doesn't cry, he goes out and works and supports the family. And all of a sudden you have a man come in into court and says, I want to bathe the baby, I want to change the diapers, I want to be the caretaker. And I'm not quite sure whether or not everyone has accepted that. In reverse, there are women now that want to leave the home and say, husband, you take care of the kids, but they're afraid of the stigma that's being placed on them. So it's a vicious cycle. What we all have to face, though, is the court must decide what's in the best interest of their child. Like Mr. Williams indicated, he was in court apparently, and she had witnesses and he didn't. What you have to remember, when you're in court, you have a very limited period of time that you have to convince a complete stranger something that's in the best interest of the child. Who shall the child go with? And based on that 1 hour, 2 hours worth of hearing, the court must make a decision. And it's sometimes it's the wrong decision, but it happens.
But is anything happening in terms of the judges? Are the judges beginning to show some type of difference?
Yes, yeah. I think that the important thing is maybe not necessarily the judges. I think my profession itself, it's awful hard, number one, to represent a man and to obtain custody. So you will now find more specialists in that area, men that are willing to handle custody. You are now, the judges are becoming more aware of it. You have younger judges that were both husband and mothers and fathers worked. We just this year, for the first time, have a joint custody bill that was actually passed by the legislature that says that both parents, in a custody situation, the court can decide sole custody to the wife, sole custody to the husband, or joint custody. So the entire system is changing towards recognizing that we must decide for the child only and for no other purpose.
How often is a child, him or herself, listened to in terms of this whole battle that goes on in and around them that affects them, obviously?
That is a problem. Number one, the courts will generally not listen to a child until the child is probably 12 or 13 years old, depending on the maturity of the child. Generally, the way the wishes of the child comes into court is through a custody investigation. Here we're talking about a third party, the Department of Social Services or the adoption custody unit coming into your home and attempting to investigate, talk to the child in the wife's home and the father's home, and then report to the court. So again, what we're talking about is a very short period of time that these interviews take place.
Are there any differences raised in a case such as George's, where he and the child's mother were not married and the father seeks custody? Is there a significant difference between that and the marriage situation where the same type of conflict arises?
Not really. The first thing must be established that he, in fact, is the father. Mm-hmm. Because without being established that he's the father, he really has no rights to that child. Mm-hmm. So once he overcomes that hurdle, which should be fairly easy, then the next issue is custody.
What I'd like to ask George is, what kind of an investigation was conducted of the home situation, of your situation, and what indeed would have been best for the child?
Okay, the investigation was done by Juvenile Services. They investigated the mother and myself, where they saw if we had adequate space for the child to live in and what type of jobs we had, what did we think was best for the child and all. And they made a determination behind that. But we have to find out, really the final determination has not been made yet. This is just all gathering information.
Any character references?
No, which I wish they had, because this woman, matter of fact, things got so rough until I tried to send people to pick up the child. She would not accept them. She wrote a letter to her lawyer that she wanted Mr. Williams, no matter what I had to do that particular day, work or whatever, to come to pick up the child so she could demonstrate herself within the neighborhood. She even gathered crowds outside her house, just profanity and all this sort of thing.
Let me ask you, what type of recourse is available to someone in George's situation where he has at least a temporary custody understanding, and it apparently might be obvious for him to prove that the other spouse is preventing him from taking advantage of that. Does he have any recourse at all?
Well, if the child resides with him, what he should have done is file for custody, temporary custody immediately, because the court will look upon him favorably in that he has the child when he comes to court, and they generally do not want to pick up the child, put him from one home into the next home, because next time around the child may come back again. So therefore, if you have the child with you and you file for custody and you have the privilege of still having the child with you by the time you go into court, you generally will be successful.
Okay.
That's the problem. Needless to say, before you get into court, the child is generally removed by the mother, and she walks into court with the child.
Okay. We're going to take a break right now and come back and get to some more questions in this subject. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. Discussing the issue of fathers and their rights to having access to their children. And in our audience is Jake Roth, who is president of Fathers United for Equal Rights. Thanks for being here. Can you tell us a little bit about the organization?
Well, the organization is actually a twofold organization, or excuse me, a threefold organization. Primarily work as a peer support group for fathers who are going through a transitional stage in their marriages as far as their relationships to their children, or who have gone through problems where they can come, people like George, to seek advice on what what assistance they can get, what procedures they can go through, and also just to help them talk out their frustrations and maybe get some advice on how better to deal with their children and their ex-spouses.
Is the organization activist at all in terms of pushing for legislation?
Yes. We also go down and lobby for and testify for legislation. This year we testified for the two joint custody bills. One was a presumption of joint custody. The other one was an option of joint custody. The option of joint custody bill passed, as Hans mentioned earlier, which says that according to the law now, the state can no longer give preference to either parent because of their gender in awarding custody. Each parent has equal right to custody, or the court can, if it deems it in the best interest of the child, award joint custody to both parents.
How important has that been to this fight?
Well, it's been important because there are more and more people that are willing to fight for it and are willing to take on the responsibilities of joint custody. The bill does not become law until July 1st, so we really don't know what kind of effect it's going to have in the court system yet. The third aspect of the group is that we have attorneys who come to the meeting, Mr. Phillips and another attorney, on a regular basis to give advice to the members and the guests as to what they can do, what procedures they can have, what they can advise their attorney if they have a private attorney, or if they want to take one of the people who come and give advice to the group, they're also available to take on cases.
Okay, Mr. Roth, we're going to ask you to stand by as a resource person here for a few minutes. Jackie, back to you.
Okay, great. I'd like to follow up on another point, though, Hans. It's interesting that the courts would find fathers in contempt, in quotation marks, and award custody to wives or to the mothers. What happens when the mothers deny the right of access, though, to the fathers? Is the court as vehement about living up to that as they are the other end?
No, they're not. And that's one of the frustrations that men have. If a man falls behind in his child support, he always has to make the payments on all the arrearages. And by the way, we always lecture, no matter what happens, make your child support payment, because your poor child should not suffer because of the conflict between husband and wife. However, if in fact a husband is being denied visitation 2, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, those months are gone. They're never made up. And when you go to court, the judges will admonish the custodial parent and say, don't let it happen again.
But that's all.
But that's it. Nothing else.
No contempt in that respect?
Generally not. Generally not. And that's the big problem. What we're trying to do, and this is going to be our next goal in the legislature, just like child support arrearages must be paid, that visitation must also be made up. So if someone uses that child, and that's the problem, they use the child, there's no longer an incentive, because if in fact the visitation will be made up.
Okay, George?
Okay, I'd like to make a point concerning that. What happens when you're not getting your visitation rights is that you have to seek out a lawyer. You can do it yourself, but if you don't have those expertise, it's better to get a lawyer, which costs you approximately anywhere between $300 and $500. So you take the ex-spouse in the court, and what happens is the master slaps her on the hand, on the wrist or whatever, and they send you to mediation for 4 or 5 months to see if you can teach this woman or this man how to hand over a child every other weekend. And you suffer. You pay for parking fees, you lose time off your job, etc.
Okay, let's take a call now from home and see. Hello, you're on City Line.
Yes, I'm calling. I really sympathize with the father, and I really feel that he's been denied his rights. And I really don't see how the court would even expect him to build a lasting relationship with a child with only 20-some days a year being able to be with the child. And I think that they really should get a move on and let him have his rights.
Okay, thank you for the comment.
You're welcome.
Any response?
Okay, I have a response for that. Of course, when the courts grant the custodial parent the child, they hope that this parent has enough decency to expand these rights, not just every other weekend, but any time the child might want to see the other parent, which is only right. Little do they know that this does not occur. Too many times these people are given too much power over this child and the non-custodial parent.
You know, that raises some other issues, particularly when you start talking about the emotional level and the idea of building relationships. I wonder, I understand that your organization does have some impact on the second wife of individuals who have gone through this type of thing.
Yes, we do. As a matter of fact, the full name of the organization is Fathers United for Equal Rights and the Second Wives Coalition. In many cases, the husband wants to move on and make a new life for himself, and it's hampered by the problems that he's having with his first ex-spouse. He is paying sometimes a very large amount of his income into child support. The way the system is set up, a lot of times the income of his new wife can be actually used against him to increase his child support instead of allowing him some extra money to establish a new family. There are the emotional problems that come about with having to switch additional kids in and out every other weekend, all the logistics that are involved with it, and all this grates very heavily. And there are a lot of people who don't want to form a second relationship because of all these problems. A lot of times the prospective second wife doesn't want it. And there are a lot of cases where second marriages fail purely because of the pressures put on it by, quote, the first family.
Hans, let me throw it to you for a question. In terms of what happens, is there still a significant difference between what happens when a woman seeks a second spouse and a man seeks a second spouse when it comes down to these financial judgments by the courts?
That's one of the problems that men are also facing. The second marriage, the court always considers a luxury, whereas if the wife remarries and marries into a higher social status, whereby, let's say, her new husband makes substantially more money than they earned in the first marriage, so therefore the needs of the children are increased. That by itself is not sufficient to increase the child support. However, once it goes into court, generally what happens, the wife gets, or the ex-wife gets substantially more child support.
Okay. Do you have any fears about that, George?
No, I'm all right on that.
Okay. We're going to take a break, but we're going to be back in just a minute to continue our discussion and to take some more questions. Please stay with us.
We're back on City Line, continuing our discussion about Fathers United for Equal Rights, and that has to do with child custody. Hans, I'd like to put out the question to you. Perhaps it's just as philosophical as it is sociological. The court system is male-dominated. The legislature is male-dominated. And yet it appears that the rules and regulations and the dictums are very anti-male.
They used to be. On the books right now, they no longer appear that way. When you look at the history, in the 1800s, it was male-dominated. The marriage broke up. The child would generally stay with the male. the females had no rights. In 1920s, the change came about, and all of a sudden, it was all towards the female. And now, especially in Maryland, since 1974, the Equal Rights Amendment has changed things again, whereby you can no longer decide a case based on sex. So this is where we're going now. It is strange, however, that the legislature is 99% male, and yet at the same time, when we go down there and attempting to fight for equal rights, for that men be treated the same way as women, or basically we're attempting to pass legislation for the benefit of the children, that we've met with deaf ears over the last several years, except this year for the first time. And they didn't really pass anything new because joint custody was already in the books already.
So it seems to be saying that women make better parents, basically, the way it has always gone, that women make better parents. Therefore, fathers can't do the job that women do.
No, it's not that. It's the stigma that was always placed. Man goes out to work, woman stays home and raises kids.
And makes a better parent. She's
Yes,
usually
yes.
more like the custodial parent.
That's correct. That's the gist of it.
I think it's because women bear the children that people have a tendency to think that they make better parents. I'm quite sure there's no one here in my own mind that loves his or her child as much as I do. And it's just wrong to be denied the right to see that child.
Not to point any fingers or to belay the point, but it seems to me that what I'm hearing is that the laws are coming around to be more gender neutral, but the people who adjudicate these laws or interpret them still have not caught up to pace. Is that what the situation is?
I don't want to put it on the judicial system. I think it's a problem as a whole. Yes, there's some in the judicial aspect of it, but I think we also have to, the lawyers have to be willing to take on some of these cases. And men must be willing to go out and fight for custody. The stories that we hear all the time, I want custody, I don't have a shot, so forget it. And that's the wrong
But what do you
attitude.
say to a George Williams who is exactly doing what you're saying, fighting for custody 3.5 years, and today he's still saying the same thing?
My response is, what about all these other men that have been in the same situation and have actually won? There's a lot of casualties that come out of these cases, but unless you're willing to take the chance, you'll never prevail.
Now, George, from what you say, and of course, we have to kind of temper what we're hearing because we're hearing George Williams' side. Not that we don't believe you, but it appears to me that what you have said to us seems like a clear-cut case. Why don't you have your child?
I'll tell you why I don't have my child, because there are too many people that sit behind desks that don't know your child, that are rendering decisions about your life. There's no one that really goes into the neighborhood and asks the neighbors if this is right or wrong and check out these stories. I ask the agencies to come into the neighborhood, ask some neighbors, find out what's going on in the neighborhood. Then you can get some answers. I think that's why I don't have my child, because no one has gone that far.
What would they learn if they came into your neighborhood?
Well, they would first learn that I'm right. I'm telling the truth. So it's just her word against my word. When we go to court, it's her word against my word.
I see you shaking your head.
That's the problem. The problem is, number one, we don't have the financial resources.
Right.
You have the adoption custody unit that does the investigations. They're so overburdened. Right now, it takes at least 6 months before they even get started on your case. They can only do a very cursory type investigation. They don't have the time, the finances to really go in depth, to go to the neighborhoods and investigate independently. So again, what we are facing is the court must make a decision on a very limited amount of information before it.
Okay, let's take another call from home. Hi, you're on City Line.
Yes, hello.
Yes.
I understand this is a trying situation, but how much money are we talking about with the father spending for the legal?
For the legal battle?
Yes.
I think you answered that earlier.
Yes, I did answer that. We're talking about, as far as lawyers are concerned, between $5,000 and $6,000. There's also another aspect of this, the pain and suffering that I've done, and my child, because she wants to see me on a regular basis. Also, I did mention that I lost $20,000 in gross wages over the last 3 years. because of this.
Financially, how typical is George's situation? Are we in the ballpark of what one might expect to encounter?
That's correct. And the biggest problem is the majority of the men cannot afford it. If, in fact, you earn $14,000, $15,000 a year gross, how can you really afford a battle? And so generally when a client comes to me and wants to fight, it's an a la carte type case. Depends on how much money you have to spend. That's how I can defend you or present your case. Can we bring psychologists in? Can we bring experts in to court? 9 times out of 10, they cannot afford it.
Does Fathers United offer any support at all? Does it have a fund?
No. We are generally Fathers United. Men come to the meetings while they have difficulties, problems, and once their problems are resolved, we never see them again. And that's the big problem. It's a revolving door.
Let me ask you, what about the children? They're caught in the middle, they're caught on the battlefield. What about them?
It's sad. 70 to 75% of all the juvenile delinquents come from broken homes. Our court system is not equipped to handle it. I think what they should do, they should initiate a family law court where you have judges that are trained in that area. You should make it more expensive to go to court. What I mean is make them go through counseling, make the child, give the child a chance. And it's the child that suffers by this. And that's the crime. It really is.
George and Hans, we're just about out of time. Is there anything positive that we can look forward to in terms of fathers gaining greater access to their children?
Well, that's hard to say. I have to wait until May the 28th for myself. However, I did have some suggestions that should help or will help.
Right.
I would say that they really need someone to police the visitation rights. Take some of those people that they have to come in once or twice a week to try to mediate you or whatever, and put them on the streets. Let them go into the neighborhoods. Make sure that that other parent, non-custodial parent, see that child and check them weekly.
Okay.
It's a good suggestion.
Hans?
I think the future is great. I think we must fight. Men must come forward. They must be willing to follow through their desire for the children and fight for custody, not to get even with the other party, because their general line conviction is in the best interest of the child. And as long as you do that, I think they're going to prevail.
Very good. Thank you both.
Thank you.
So much for coming by to talk about a subject that we have not done enough with in the past on our show, but luckily we did today. And we will have the address and phone number of Fathers United for Equal Rights in just a moment. So please stay with us.
Good afternoon. Last week on Newscap, we addressed the topic of racism in the Baltimore County School System and how some black parents there feel that their children are being unfairly disciplined, provoked, and undereducated. We spoke to Anthony Marchione, Deputy Superintendent of the Baltimore County School System, and he unequivocally denied those charges. The Baltimore County branch of the NAACP has received approximately 174 different complaints from parents outlining these concerns, and they want to see some changes. One such parent is Denise Burton, and she joins us now to talk about how some parents feel about the treatment of black students in the Baltimore County School System. Ms. Burton, thank you for joining us this afternoon. In addition to you having a child in the Baltimore County School System, you are also chairman of the NAACP Education Committee. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Tell us what the committee has found in terms of these charges. What kinds of charges has the committee received?
Well, the committee has received approximately 180 complaints from parents across the county. They're related to unequal treatment in terms of academic placement, unfair treatment in terms of disciplinary actions.
Racism, Ms. Burton, as you know, is a very serious charge, and it's one that Mr. Marchione denied. How do you define racism?
Okay, racism is a situation where we have children that are treated unequally and unfairly with respect to the same things.
Because of their color?
Because of the color.
What kinds of complaints have you received from parents?
For example, we have received unequal treatment in terms of the academic placement. We have situations where white students have scored lower on standardized tests than black students, yet the white students receive higher placement levels.
Has that information been documented?
Yes, it has.
How has it been documented?
Okay, we have had parents to bring information to us, and also we have forwarded this information to the Department of Education, Baltimore County.
How long have parents been bringing these kinds of complaints to you?
Oh, I guess over the last few months we have had many, many complaints. As a result of these complaints, we have formed a subcommittee called the STARS, and that's Students Against Racism in Schools. Now, this subcommittee is headed by Mrs. Donaldson.
Okay. Have you shared these complaints with members of the county school system?
Yes, we have. When we receive the complaints, we investigate. That is, the STARS committee does investigate the complaints. For the most part, we have found these complaints to be valid. Okay, we have been able to work some of them out, and the others we have not. We're still investigating them. The parents come to us because they have not received satisfactory results. They have gone up to the schools, talked to the teacher, the principal. Some have taken further. They were not satisfied with the results, so they have come to us for assistance.
What kind of response have you gotten from officials in the county school system? Have they been responsive?
Well, we have received a response from the superintendent, and he has informed us that, and we are expecting a response from him. We have addressed the issues, so he is aware of the issues involved, and we do expect a response from him. Now, we have also spoken to Dr. Barbara Kelly, who is Dr. Dubell's assistant, specialist assistant, and she is aware of the problems. She is aware of our concerns. So we are working with the Baltimore County Board of Education.
Tell us a little bit about STARS and exactly what is its focus, Students Against Racism in Schools.
Okay, STARS is a subcommittee.
Exactly what do they do?
They investigate the complaints. We receive the complaints are presented to the committee, and then we get together. We meet every Monday at the Benjamin Banneker Community Center at 7:30, and we discuss the complaints and try to get all the information that we can to make sure we have a valid complaint and take it from there.
Where can you specifically define where the problem lies in terms of what you call racism? Again, a very serious charge. Is it with the administrators? Is it with some of the teachers? Is it with all of the teachers? How does it manifest itself?
Okay, as you realize, people are individuals, and we cannot say all because that is not so. But we do have a problem with some individuals, and that's what we try to address.
Who are these individuals? Are they teachers?
Yes, and yes, they are teachers. Yes, they are.
Have you ever had the occasion to address any of these teachers specifically?
The parents have. Okay, the parents have addressed these teachers. And as I said before, that is why the parents have come to us, because they have not had satisfactory results.
174 different complaints from different parents is quite a large number, especially when you consider that blacks are such a low percentage of the Baltimore County school system. So would you say that a large percentage of those black students in the Baltimore County school system, I mean, if we're talking about 174 complaints and only less than 8% blacks in the county school system, we're talking about perhaps 80% of the students, black students in the Baltimore County school system, experiencing some kind of difficulty. Do you agree with that assessment, or how would you interpret that assessment?
Yes, I agree. Now, you realize that the black population in the school system is on the rise. Now, we had approximately 180 complaints, and I'm quite sure there are more out there. We need the parents to come to us. We are working, pardon me, we are working with the Department of Education, Baltimore County, to try to rectify the problems, and so that we can avoid them in the future.
Would you say that the county school system has a history of these kinds of problems as it relates to racial matters?
Yes, and it is being brought to light by the parents. The parents are now coming forth and bringing the problems to us so that they can be addressed.
We will follow your progress, and please do keep us informed.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this afternoon. And that is today's newscap. I'm T. Montier. More of City Line up next. Please stay with us.
Together, you and I can help to save a life today. We can stop a killer from reaching into minds and throwing lies.
Hi, Harold Anthony here. Did you know that the average high school student has used drugs and/or alcohol by the age of 13? Or that 1/3 of 10th grade students smoke marijuana? Believe it or not, almost 1/4 of all 11th graders have some sort of drug or alcohol-related problem. Another alarming statistic is that 30 to 50% of the crimes committed against property or against individuals is related to direct abuse of drugs. Drugs or substance abuse is a very big problem, and the only way to save the children and some adults from its consumption is for everyone to become involved in its prevention. On Tuesday, April 15th, Police Commissioner Bishop Robinson announced that the mayor's Blow the Whistle on Drugs campaign has resulted in over 1,000 arrests. There are several community task forces established in the city in addition to several state-supported programs that have helped many people. Thanks, Baltimore, and keep up the good work. A few musical artists, including the First Lady, Nancy Reagan, are taking the substance abuse problem seriously. Here they are in a star-studded video that will hopefully assist in stopping the madness. See if you can recognize some of your favorite entertainers.
I think it's a menace to this country.
I think I started drinking when I was 14, and I'm still drinking.
That's a good feeling. It's a false feeling. You're looking at jail time anywhere from a year to 25 or 30. When it comes to drugs, friendship stops. It's a temptation. It's the forbidden fruit.
You and I can help to save a life today. We can stop a killer from reaching into minds and throwing lives away. Drugs are causing pain, and everyone's a loser in this deadly game that's played.
This insanity, you know that dope is slavery.
And you know we've got to be free.
Come on, now we've got to stop the madness. Stop the madness now.
That was Stop the Madness, an effort by various artists, including Whitney Houston and New Edition, to aid in drug control. To commemorate Drug and Alcohol Awareness Week, the Chemical People Task Force of Cherry Hill will present the Bowie State Gospel Choir in concert. The concert takes place May 8th at the Patapsco Elementary School, located at 844 Roundview Road. Donations are only $1, and for further information, you can call Irma Evans at 396-1646. Listen, if you have a drug problem or you know someone who does have one, the Echo House Foundation Incorporated offers a variety of therapy sessions for couples, individuals, families, and groups. For more information, call 947-1700 or 947-2028. Office hours are Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. Also, Lutheran Hospital has a drug abuse counseling and referral service. They offer crisis intervention, prevention education, and a referral service that can direct you to a place that can cater to your particular needs. For more information, call 945-1600, extension 2355. And finally, the Baltimore City Police Department has a narcotics hotline where you can report your suspicions to the police if you believe that the activity that you have witnessed is drug-related. Call the narcotics hotline at 685-DRUG. And with that, another page is turned. I'm Harold Anthony, hoping to see you all next week.
Thanks, Harold. We want to thank Jake Roth and Fathers United for Equal Rights, and like to give you some information. If you have any further questions, you can feel free to contact them. And you can reach them at 34 Marketplace, Suite 302, and you can call them at 539-DADS. That's in dads.
And as in dads,
As in
right.
dads.
In fact, we'd also like to tell you that they meet every Tuesday at St. Michael's Church on St. Paul and 20th Street. Men and women are invited. That's every Tuesday at 8 p.m. at St. Michael's Church.
And we want to invite you to be with us next week. Call and get those seat reservations in, because we're going to be talking, or rather asking the question, is it sex or love? And if you want to be a part of that studio audience, you want to give us a call here at 481-1313. I'm still on 539.
Yes. And we will have two columnists from Essence Magazine that will be our guests.
That'll be very interesting. Well, it's been a great show. Thanks for being with us. I'm B.T. Bentley.
I'm Jackie Hall. Have a good Sunday.
Okay. I'm going to try.